The year is 2030. Imagine you are the supreme commander of a hostile superpower. You have the ships, you have the soldiers, and you have the political will. You've just given the order to invade the United States of America. You aren't worried about the US Navy. Let's pretend, for the sake of this thought experiment, that the US military has magically vanished. Poof, gone. No aircraft carriers, no Reaper drones, no Marines. Just the land, the people, and the infrastructure. You think this is going to be a walk in the park? You think you're going to plant your flag on the White House lawn within a month? My friend, you are about to walk into the greatest logistical meat grinder in human history. You see, the United States isn't just a country. It is a geographically engineered fortress designed by nature to kill invaders. You are fighting a battle against physics, economics, and a civilian population that makes the Viet Cong look like a homeowners association dispute. Today, we aren't talking about nukes or F-35s. We are looking at the terrifying economic and geographic reality of why the US is unconquerable. Buckle up. It's going to get messy. 1. The liquid walls of death, the tyranny of distance. Let's start with the most obvious problem. The one that usually kills your invasion before you even finish your morning coffee. The moats. To the east, you have the Atlantic Ocean. To the west, the Pacific. These aren't just bodies of water. They are logistical death sentences. If you are invading from Europe, you have to cross roughly 3,000 to 4,000 miles of open ocean just to get to the east coast. If you're coming from Asia, you're looking at nearly 6,000 to 7,000 miles to hit California. Let's put that in perspective. During World War II, for the Allies to invade Normandy, a trip across the English Channel that is roughly 20 to 100 miles wide, it took years of planning, millions of tons of supplies, and the total economic output of 3 superpowers. That was for a gap you could almost swim across on a good day. Now imagine doing that, but stretch the supply line to 6,000 miles. Let's assume you want to land a force capable of actually holding territory. Military doctrine generally suggests a ratio of force superiority. But let's be conservative. Let's say you want to land 500,000 troops. That is a modest number to occupy a nation of 330 million people spanning 3.8 million square miles. You don't just ship the soldiers. You have to ship their food, their ammo, their medical supplies, and most importantly, their fuel. A modern armored division consumes hundreds of thousands of gallons of fuel per day. To support an invasion force across the Pacific, you would need a bridge of ships so dense you could almost walk on it. And here is the dark comedy of it all. The United States has no nearby staging grounds. In most invasions, you build up forces in a neighboring country. Germany used France to try to hit Britain. The US used Britain to hit Germany. The US used Saudi Arabia to hit Iraq. Who are you going to use to hit the US? If you try to stage in Hawaii, you're still 2,500 miles from the mainland. That's like staging in London to invade Iraq. It doesn't help you. The sheer volume of shipping required to move a credible invasion force across the Atlantic or Pacific would be visible from space. It would take months to assemble. There is no surprise attack here. You aren't sneaking up on America. By the time your first ship reaches the U.S. exclusive economic zone, your soldiers will have been at sea for weeks. They are seasick, their muscles have atrophied, and they are eating MREs. And what greets them? Not a welcome mat. The U.S. coastlines are not designed for easy access. The West Coast is largely rocky cliffs and treacherous currents with very few deep water ports suitable for offloading heavy armor. San Francisco, Los Angeles, Seattle, San Diego, that's about it. These are bottlenecks. If defenders scuttle cargo ships in the entrance to Long Beach or destroy the cranes, which they absolutely would, you're stuck offloading tanks onto a beach while taking fire. On the East Coast, the water is shallow, the swamps are treacherous, and the urbanization is so dense that you're fighting in a concrete jungle the second you step off the boat. Otto von Bismarck, the Iron Chancellor of Germany, once famously said, or is attributed to have said, "God has a special providence for fools, drunkards, and the United States of America." He was right. Geography is the first line of defense, and for the U.S., geography is a serial killer. 2. The neighborhood from hell, Canada and Mexico. Okay, so the oceans are a no-go. You're smart. You decide. I won't go by sea directly. I'll land in Canada or Mexico and drive in. Congratulations. You have just played yourself. The northern approach. You land in Canada. Great. Welcome to the Canadian Shield, millions of square miles of exposed rock, swamps, lakes, and freezing forests. It is one of the most inhospitable terrains on Earth for mechanized warfare. There are very few north-south roads capable of supporting heavy armor. If you land in Vancouver, you're funneled into the Cascade Mountains, forced into narrow choke points. A handful of defenders with explosives could bury your convoy under a landslide. If you land in the east, you must march through the Appalachians and the forests of New England during winter. General Winter saved Russia from Napoleon and Hitler. North American winters are no joke either. The southern approach, Mexico. You land in Mexico and drive north. Welcome to the Sonoran and Chihuahuan deserts. This terrain kills people walking with backpacks, let alone armies with tanks. It's arid, brutal, and lacks water. The U.S.-Mexico border is roughly 2,000 miles long, but very few places can support armor crossings. The Rio Grande acts as a natural moat, and vast stretches are unpaved wilderness. If you cross at El Paso, you're still 1,400 miles from Chicago. You're 1,700 miles from Washington, D.C. You must drag supply lines across thousands of miles of desert with little infrastructure. Historically, invasions fail because of overextended supply lines. Invading the U.S. through Canada or Mexico creates the longest, most vulnerable supply lines in history. 3. The geographical kill zones, the mountains. Let's say you achieve the impossible. You establish a beachhead. Now you face the shields. West Coast, the Rockies. The Rocky Mountains stretch 3,000 miles from Canada to New Mexico, with peaks over 14,000 feet. Few major passes exist. Destroy a tunnel or bridge, and your invasion force is stuck in a parking lot. You're not fighting a conventional war. You're fighting Afghanistan on steroids. East Coast, the Appalachians. You take New York or D.C. Now push inland. Welcome to the Appalachian Mountains. A dense, forested nightmare for armored warfare. The geography forces you onto predictable roads. Predictable roads mean IEDs. You can't see the enemy, but they can see you. 4. Behind every blade of grass, civilian insurgency. There are roughly 400 million civilian-owned firearms in the United States. There are only about 335 million people. That's more than one gun per person. In Wisconsin alone, about 600,000 hunters go into the woods during deer season. If they were an army, they'd be one of the largest in the world. Now add 18 million veterans, millions of AR-15s, thermal optics, drones, ammunition stockpiles. You would be facing the most well-equipped guerrilla force in history. To occupy a hostile population, you need about 20 soldiers per 1,000 civilians. For the U.S., you'd need 6.6 million occupation troops. No military on Earth has that. 5. The logistical black hole, internal infrastructure. Driving from New York to Los Angeles takes 41 hours non-stop. In a war zone, it could take months. There are over 600,000 bridges in the U.S. Defenders don't need to destroy every road. They just need to drop key bridges over major rivers. The Mississippi River alone can split the country in half. You're stuck on one side, trying to build pontoon bridges under fire. Meanwhile, rail lines are sabotaged, refineries are burning, pipelines are shut off. You're sitting in Kansas with an empty fuel tank and an angry farmer behind you. 6. The economic suicide pill, mutually assured depression. The US dollar makes up about 60% of global reserves. If the US collapses, the dollar collapses, global trade freezes, trillions in wealth vanish. You didn't just invade a country, you blew up the bank holding your own savings. And then there's tech. AWS, Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud. Much of the internet runs through US data centers. Destroy them, and you crash your own economy and communications. That's the reality of American geography. It is the ultimate cheat code in the game of civilization.